I was in college during 9/11. That's a story for another day.
Oh, yeah.
But I remember being on campus at Cal State Long Beach during 9/11. So we can talk about that.
And everyone just looked at you in school.
It was pretty wild. It was pretty wild.
Sanaz Mesa.
Like,
I know.
That's no mistaking that.
That was.
I remember there was.
Rough.
I mean, not to get too far off the conversation, but I remember being in class and I squared up to this guy, squared up. And because he was, he was talking. He was probably a little bit more conservative. I was in a very liberal class.
Not to make it a race thing, but it's always good for my storytelling. What race was he?
He was a very Caucasian man.
Okay. Just helps the story flow for me.
I don't want to judge him, but he was very Caucasian.
Corey gets mad at that, but I always want to know the race of everyone in each
So
story.
what had happened was 9/11 was on a Thursday, I believe. And so this class was on Tuesdays and Thursdays. And so classes were canceled on 9/11. We went back on that Tuesday. The Tuesday before 9/11, our instructor had asked us she would take roll, and she said, hey, this is what we're going to do. Write your name on this piece of paper and then tell me what this is. And she held up an American flag. And so by the time the paper came around to me, people were writing like a tissue, just a flag, it means nothing. This is what the answers were for what an American flag was. She then taught about symbolism. That was what we talked about that day. This was a social psychology class. Then 9/11 happened on Thursday, and then we come back to class on Tuesday. She walks in, she holds the American flag, and she says, take out a piece of paper. Now what is this? And so how we shifted our perspective on what it was and what it is now after 9/11. So then we start talking about it, and then this guy starts talking about Middle Easterns. So this was 2 weeks shy of my 21st birthday. So I was I was aggressive. I was, offended.
Much louder than you are now.
Much louder than I am now. And I'm using my inside voice right now.
Your brain wasn't fully developed.
You weren't 25 yet.
So I squared up to this guy, and, my teacher was loving it because she was like, she wrote really big on the book, like let's discuss, but not realizing that like I'm about to go to jail because I'm about to have this conversation with this guy. I remember telling my dad this story, and
Papa?
Oh, Papa Ben. He's the best.
What did he say?
I remember telling growing up, my dad had always been like, you are so proud to be an Iranian. This is like the most beautiful culture.
And he's the type that wears a button-up shirt with his chest hair coming out, the button down to his belly button. Papa Ben is an OG. Yeah,
Ben is something else. This guy. He had the mutton chops in the 70s and wore the platforms. He was a cool guy. He still is a cool guy. So I remember telling him the story, and I was so proud that like I stood up for myself as an Iranian. And I remember my dad just being really silent, and he said, just do me a favor. Now, remember, this is a guy who had always told me to be proud that I'm Iranian, to be screaming that from the mountaintops. And he says to me, and I'm going to cry, he says, do me a favor right now and just don't tell anybody that you're Persian. And my heart broke because now I had to hide my identity. I had to pretend, and he even told me, he's like, you're white passing. So just be white right now. And I remember just being like distraught because my parents would have to put white flags in their cars so that nobody would attack them on the freeway. It was,
oh my God,
it was
I
just
remember.
a really hard time.
Man.
And so I remember like
I feel sorry for what we put Muslims through during the early 2000s. That was really bad.
It was hard. And then being on college campus, I remember being torn. Like, do I scream that I'm a Middle Eastern? And again, it wasn't Persians who did this, but
to Americans,
but to Americans, Middle Eastern. If you were Middle Eastern, you were the enemy. And I know a lot of cultures have felt that at some time or another, and that just happened to have been the time that's what we were going through. And I just remember being so torn, like, who am I right now? What is my identity? Who can I trust? Who can I talk to? All of those things in college. Because even though I was at a very liberal college where people were, I don't know, like it was a scary time.